This is a travel vlog. However, this is a travel vlog about a trip that I took 2 years ago. Well, a year and a half. It'll be 2 years this summer. In August of 2018, my husband and I decided to go to England for our first anniversary trip. We were able to afford this because of the credit card points that we had acquired during our wedding. And been watching a lot of London vlogs recently because we're going back this summer. And I realized that some of the information that we gained during our 2018 trip might be relevant to other people out there, so I figured I'd share some of it. A few caveats up front. I do have some video footage in here, but this is video footage that I downloaded from Facebook Live, so vertical video syndrome, I'm sorry. Things to know: we flew British Airways, economy class, both ways. We were able to bring one suitcase each for free. That was because we had booked our tickets so far in advance that once they started charging for bags, we had already purchased our tickets, which was lovely. We ended up purchasing a 2-day London pass before we left. The reason we did that is we knew there were a lot of the big sites that we wanted to hit in 2 days, and we graphed it out and realized that it was financially more responsible for us to do it the London Pass way. We spent $257 on our London Pass. The value of the attractions that we visited, however, was $436.64, which means that by purchasing the London Pass, we ended up saving $178.64 total. To begin with on our trip, we do not live in Seattle, but we choose to fly out of it because it is like $400 or $500 cheaper. So we drove several hours. We arrived at Seattle. We ended up staying at the Hilton Bellevue, which had one of the most fun elevators that I think I've ever experienced in a hotel. And we went to the Cheesecake Factory because when I was in college, that was my jam. Day 2, we went to Pike Place Market. Absolutely a blast. People playing piano. We ended up getting cheese curds that were freshly made. Bought some dried flowers that are still in my living room. And we went to the Seattle Zoo, which I had never been to before. The Seattle Zoo is pretty fun. I can't remember how much it cost, but I remember having a really good time. I think we spent 4-ish hours there. We arrived at the Seattle airport, we checked on our single bag, we got onto the plane, and then we flew. The next morning we landed at Heathrow International Airport, where we went through customs together. So there are a lot of different ways you can get from the airport, from Heathrow into the main city. We were staying at the Grosvenor Hotel, which is right next to Victoria Station. So we went with the coach option through National Express. I think it was like £5 per person. And that was pretty stressful. It's great when you just get off the plane, get your bags, go through customs, arrive at the coach area, and then you wait. And then you wait. And then you ask, hey, am I in the right area, to the little people that are walking around? And they say, yeah, you're in the right area. And then you keep waiting. And you start getting kind of nervous. Eventually, we arrived at Victoria Coach Station, which is not the same as Victoria Station, which we were staying next to. It's a pretty short walk, though. It's totally manageable. So we walked across with our luggage and then left our bags at the Grosvenor Hotel. The Grosvenor Hotel has one of the most beautiful hotel lobbies I think I've ever seen. It's white marble, high ceilings, dramatic staircase. It is gorgeous. I wish the rooms looked like the lobby. We drop off our bags and there's this moment of realization where we're in England with no work responsibilities. Just get completely overwhelmed with the freedom. So we end up just walking around, getting a little bit lost. Walk over, we see Buckingham Palace, which is pretty close to the Grosvenor. We end up eating breakfast at this place called Crumpets. Then we decided, hey, you know what? We're a little disoriented. We're going to do the hop on, hop off. Figure out this town a little bit, which was included in the London Pass. Our first stop with it was Westminster Abbey, which was also included in the London Pass. We were pretty tired at this point. It's absolutely incredible. We did end up rushing through Westminster Abbey a little bit faster than I intended. I think we spent about 2 hours there. Westminster Abbey is the kind of place where you can spend an entire day just reading and soaking in the history. They have a bang-up gift shop. So we hopped back on our hop-on, hop-off bus tour, and then we ended up over at St. Paul's Cathedral. At this point, the jet lag was setting in. So we walk into St. Paul's. It's incredibly gorgeous. After we went to St. Paul's, went back to the Grosvenor, officially checked in, and they said, oh, so you're on this floor, you go up this one flight of elevators, then make sure you transfer, walk down halfway past the hallway, and then take another set of elevators up there. Finding our room was challenging during the entire stay. We got lost multiple times. We asked multiple people for directions. No one gave us clear directions. Now, I had wanted to do a sort of special photo shoot because it was our 1 year anniversary. I wanted to take my wedding dress and a suit for him and then take lovely pictures somewhere. My husband was not so keen on the idea. But when I changed it and I suggested, what about inflatable dinosaur costumes? He got on board. Found this incredible photographer named Dino Gomez, who does like multi-millionaire weddings, and he was totally game. So we met up at Buckingham Palace and started taking some fun photos. The photos turned out incredible. You'll be seeing some of them while I'm talking here. And we were just dead on our feet at this point. Keep in mind, we had landed at like 6:30 that morning, and Phil had only slept on the bus. I hadn't slept at all. I was running on pure adrenaline. And we realized, okay, we just need to go back to the hotel, crash. We also needed food. You hear all the time about Nando's. We were like, okay, let's go to Nando's. And Phil was excited because they had an unlimited drink dispenser. We got the medium peri-peri. It was okay. Maybe we did something wrong. We each ordered half a chicken, and I don't know. It was bland. Maybe if I'd gotten the spicy one. We only had that day in London, and then when we woke up the next day was our only full day in London that didn't involve flying. So we woke up a little bit later than anticipated. The beautiful thing about London is that nothing opens till 10 anyway. And we headed off to Borough Market. Every kind of food you could ever want, any type of food vendor. We went on a weekday, we didn't even go on a weekend, and it was absolutely jam-packed with vendors. The people, however, it was not as jam-packed with. When we went back in 2019, we went on a Saturday, and I would say I enjoyed it more on the weekday. So Borough Market, we got the world-famous paella, which was okay. Wasn't overwhelmed by it. We got a bacon buddy that was terrible. But the shining star was raclette. Absolutely magnificent melty cheese cascading over potatoes, complemented by salt and pepper and optional pickles. Not a pickle fan, neither is my husband, so we got it without pickles. But it was absolutely incredible. So once we were done feasting upon the raclette, we went over to the Golden Hind, which is also in the London Pass. It's a moored boat that, when we were going to it, had a full Peter Pan experience going on. Got yelled at by Captain Hook, that sort of thing. It was fun to play around on, climb in. I would say it's a little bit more suited for kids when the Peter Pan thing's going on. I would have liked to have gone there when there wasn't to play on. But it seemed kind of constant. After the Golden Hind, we went to the Tower Bridge experience, where you take an elevator or stairs if you're adventurous, go up Tower Bridge, and walk across two areas that have glass bottoms. You learn about the history of Tower Bridge. You get a gorgeous view over the Thames. Absolutely cannot recommend it enough. 10 out of 10. They also have a very fun souvenir photo thing when you're there, where you just, I think it's got to be like £2 or £3, and it makes you a nice little postcard with all the London sights all around it. After we did the Tower Bridge experience, we went to the actual Tower of London, which is also included in the London Pass. The thing about the Tower of London is that it is huge. You really, really need to dedicate some time to it. We went towards the end of the day, and our number one goal was, of course, the Crown Jewels, which had a long line. Totally worth it, though. The history and just the majesty of them, incredible. 10 out of 10. Would go back there. Did go back there in 2019, intending on going back there in 2020. We've spent probably 8 or 9 hours there cumulatively, and we still haven't seen everything. There's just so much to see and so much to learn. The Tower of London is really probably what I recommend the highest of anything in London if you like history, because there's just so much of it. It's dripping and oozing out of every corner. We went on the Thames boat cruise, which honestly we really enjoyed. It was very relaxing. You got to see a different side of the city. Your aching legs from walking 10 miles give a nice little break. You get to see Tower Bridge from the perfect perspective. You get to go underneath London Bridge. It's a nice way to take a little breather and just enjoy London, especially if your time is so limited. Now, after we took the boat cruise, we needed to figure out somewhere to go for our anniversary dinner. And we were not extremely well versed in London at this time, so we ended up walking around just trying to find some place and ended up somehow back at Borough Market, where we ate fish and chips at the Notable Fish. One of us got cod and one of us got haddock. I don't remember which of us got which, but I remember that mine was not as good as Phil's. However, at the end of the meal, it took absolutely forever to get our bill, and we were kind of rushing because we were trying to get to the Shard before it closed. Eventually, we got to pay at Fish, and it took us probably 5-10 minutes to get to the Shard. We got there at 9:20, and the people at the counter were saying, "Do you even want to go up? You're only going to be up there for 10 minutes." And we're like, "We had the London pass. We're leaving tomorrow." Yes! So we didn't get the souvenir photo. We didn't get to do much of anything. Everything was closing down when we got there, but we still got to see these incredible views of London at night, and it was lovely. I would definitely encourage you to do the view at the Shard if it's included in a pass that you're paying for. It was in the London pass. If I had to pay the $46 per person, hell no. Hell no. Go somewhere else. But if it's in the London pass, do it. It's lovely. So our next day was a little bit complicated. What we did was we went back to Victoria Coach Station, back to Heathrow, and we rented a car from Heathrow. So we picked up our rental car, then we drove over to Highclere Castle because I'm a huge Downton Abbey fan. I was playing the theme song music as we were driving up the crinkly little drive. You get to park really close to the castle, like much closer than I was expecting. And it's everything you see in the TV show. The trees. Oh my God, the trees at Highclere Castle. You walk up there and you hear the crunch, crunch, crunch that you hear in TV. And it's this experience. You walk up through the halls and it's not like you're walking through a set. It's like you're dropped into the Downton Abbey world. We did the first tour of the day, and that's something that I would strongly encourage if you're considering going to Highclere Castle. The reason for that is there are so many people constantly going through the house. And we got to take our time going through the library, got to take our time going through the rooms. But people started to bottleneck up behind us. The thing about Highclere that I didn't expect, they had a cafe, just like everywhere. They had the best scone that I've had in England in 2 trips. I got a cream tea, because that's my thing. When I go places, I get cream teas. And it wasn't anything special. It was just plain scone, clotted cream, jam in a little jar, everything prefab. But it was just absolute perfection. After we went to Highclere Castle, we went up to Stonehenge, which absolutely beat every single expectation I had for it. All of the reviews and all the vlogs I had heard about Stonehenge said, "Oh, it's so small, it's so underwhelming. That thing's incredible." I could have spent all day there. There is a magnificence and such a pride as a human being knowing that we accomplished that. After we left Stonehenge, we went to Old Sherborne Castle, which is this beautiful ruined castle. We got there about half an hour before it closed, which really was a theme on this trip. But just walking through there was one other couple that was walking through at the time. You could see sheep and cows off in the distance. Absolutely fantastic. Old Sherborne Castle was lovely. After we left Old Sherborne Castle, we checked into our lovely little garden cottage at a place called Munden House. Munden House is a beautiful bed and breakfast. 10 out of 10 would recommend. In our garden cottage, we had this lovely little kitchen that she put some eggs in, she put some fresh baked bread. The eggs were from the chickens that were running around. Absolutely perfect. I wish I had gone there on my honeymoon, because it was the most romantic little cottage that I think I've ever seen in real life. We checked in and then we were like, okay, where are we going to eat for dinner? And she had this beautiful little binder set up. And we were like, okay, we're going to eat at a pub, because we didn't eat at a pub in London. We decided on the Half Moon Inn. And Phil got bangers and mash, and I got fish and chips, because I was a wuss. His bangers and mash were significantly better than my fish and chips. But my fish and chips were better than the fish and chips that I had had at Fish. The inside of the Half Moon Inn reminded me significantly of the Burrow, the Weasley house in Harry Potter, where there were just things everywhere that were old and beautiful. It was just a great experience. Our next day, we set off from our beautiful cottage at Munden House to a place called Dirtledore. It's this amazing stone arch over in Dorset. There's this upper viewing area that's lovely, and if you have any mobility issues, I would stay at this upper level. But if you go down there, which is a somewhat intense hike in rainy weather, just because it gets so muddy and slippery. But it's gorgeous. Absolutely love Dirtledore. I wish it had been a little bit warmer. We had planned on maybe going swimming because I wanted to swim out to the arch. It just looks so cool. But it was a little bit too cold with the rain. After we went to Dirtledore, we had intended on going to a castle along the way. However, while we were driving, we ended up going by Lulworth Castle. It's a castle that had the interior completely burnt out. Shout out to Philip, the man who was hilarious at the front door that sold us tickets. After Lulworth Castle, we ended up over at Brighton, which was our final stop of the day. Brighton is one of those places that you don't think is real. It's just everything is so cute and wonderful. We did swim there, not for very long because we had forgotten our swimming shoes, and that is a very rocky beach. It was also on the chillier side because, in the theme of this trip, we got there a little bit later than we intended. Checked into our hotel, which was called A Room with a View. Would really recommend it. The room was a little on the smaller side, but it was very cozy. It said that it had a sea view, and I guess from one particular angle you had a sea view. But the breakfast the next morning was incredible. Really, 10 out of 10 service breakfast. My husband's grandfather's brother died in World War II, and he was buried at the Cambridge American Cemetery. So we found where he was buried, stayed there for a little bit, read the history. Normally I'm pretty tough in terms of going to memorials, but I cried at this one. We were supposed to also go to Thorpe Abbotts, which was the airfield that my husband's grandfather was at in World War II, but it was closed. Now, I am a planner, but for some reason it slipped through the cracks and we didn't end up going there when it was open. So we were at the entrance gate, and eventually we just left and headed down to Cambridge. The thing about Cambridge is, when we got there, although things were open, it was too rainy to do anything. It was absolutely a torrential downpour. It was like the sky knew how upset we were about not being able to go to Thorpe Abbotts and responded in kind. We drove by the university, which looked lovely from what we could see. There were also cows, which I don't quite understand. Do they normally keep cows? Was there some escaped cow incident at Cambridge in August of 2018? Unanswered questions that remain. We ended up eating at Beef Eaters that night, which we didn't know was basically the British version of Applebee's. But it was delicious, and the best thing that came out of that was we found this drink called Recorderlig, which makes a low alcohol cider. It's like 1.5%. It's almost negligible. It's the best thing I think I've ever drank. My husband and I don't drink, so finding a even slightly alcoholic beverage was pretty exciting for us because we just don't like the taste of alcohol. You can't taste it in this. Straight up fruit juice. 10 out of 10. Love Recorderlig low alcohol cider, which is completely unavailable in the United States. We ended up staying at the Hotel Felix in Cambridge, which was our favorite hotel of the entire trip, and frankly, in 2 years of visiting England, still my favorite hotel. I booked like the cheapest, most basic room, and for some reason, the Hotel Felix is set up where there's this big main house in the center, and the two wings have all of these standard rooms. I booked like almost a year in advance, and I don't know why, but they gave us the incredible like honeymoon suite in the main house that was bigger than our apartment at the time. Had this amazing king bed. I'll show you a picture where you can see the hotel. We are the center window immediately over reception. That hotel room was incredible. The hotel was incredible. But the next morning when we woke up, they had a free English breakfast buffet, but it didn't open until like 10, and we needed to be out of there early because we were going to Watford for the Harry Potter tour. And they were like, well, we could just send it up on room service. check which things you want. Portions in England tend to be on the smaller side, so we checked off a few more boxes than we normally would have, anticipating, oh, this is going to be like a little tiny bowl and little tiny portions. It was enough food for like 5 people. It was great food, too. It was also where we tried blood pudding for the first time, which Phil is solidly in the no camp about. It's not something that I would pick. I don't think I finished my slice, but it wasn't horrible. That's my blood sausage. It isn't horrible. So, needless to say, that day we drove to Watford. I booked, I think, probably 10 or 11 a.m. We stayed there until 6 o'clock that night. Absolutely one of the best experiences of that trip. Just seeing everything, feeling everything, trying butterbeer, seeing the masks, getting on a broomstick. Everything was... After we did the Harry Potter tour, we went to our most expensive and fanciest hotel of the trip, which was Oakley Court. Oakley Court is notable because it is the hotel that the exteriors were used for the Rocky Horror Picture Show. But the hotel was absolutely beautiful. You remember how I said with Hotel Felix where you have the main house and then you have wings? Well, we were in the wings. It was a nice hotel room. It was huge. It was a really big hotel room, but for how much we spent, I was a little bit underwhelmed. In terms of dinner that night, we ended up just going down to Tesco, getting some pre-made cakes, trying to find recordedly low alcohol, but only finding the full alcohol, so we tried that. Disappointing. But Oakley Court was lovely. I would say probably the biggest hiccup of the trip was I forgot to check us in 24 hours before our flight. And when I did check us in, the only 2 seats that were available next to each other were across the aisle. And for a 9-hour flight, when we lean on each other to sleep, that was pretty awful. So I kept calling, offering to pay for this, offering to pay for that, and they said you can't do anything until you get to the gate. So we drive from Oakley Court over to Heathrow in the morning, return the rental car, and basically I have to beg the front desk to get us 2 seats together. Now, they didn't end up charging us any extra. Keep in mind, I had paid for us to sit together on the way out there, but I didn't pay on the way back, thinking, oh, it won't be a problem. For some reason, the flights from London back to America are always more packed, and I don't know why. But through the kindness of a flight attendant and my persistentness, we ended up sitting together for another tuna can flight back to the States. All in all, I would say that road tripping through England for your first time really going internationally as an adult is kind of intense. Also, you have to have someone that's really confident at driving. Like, I'm a good driver, but he's better. And without him, the road trip part wouldn't have worked because the trains are just too expensive. We got to see a lot of things that we otherwise wouldn't have, which was lovely. And we got to spend as much time in places as we wanted to, which was also lovely. I just wanted to end the vlog with a mini London Pass review. For us, we're planners. We planned ahead to see exactly what we were going to do and made sure that in those 2 days, we got our money's worth out of the London Pass. We ended up saving a total of $178.64. That's from if we had paid at the gate without any reservations. For us, the London Pass made a lot of sense. If you are comfortable pre-planning and you're comfortable deciding exactly what you want to do on what days, I would strongly encourage you to get the London Pass. Thank you for watching my vlog. If you have any questions about London or any of the places we visited, feel free to drop a comment and I'll be happy to reply. Hopefully we'll get 2019 up soon so you can see what we did this last summer. Thanks!